Show before the show stuff. Saw Deadpool today. Deadpool and Wolverine. It was great.
Yep.
Are you gonna see it when it comes out on Disney? Probably.
Yeah, probably. I don't think
I'll be honest.
Make a trip for it.
This is the first time I've been to the Coleman Theater in a long time. It's just as bad as I remember it, but it was packed.
Yeah, I really like, and this is because of my buddy Trent, because me and him go watch horror movies together.
Mm-hmm.
I really like going to the east side of Huntsville. That one I don't remember.
Bridge Street or
no, the east side in Huntsville, up like 231. I can't remember the name of that theater. But it's
is it a Cinemark or is it a different?
It's hardly ever busy, and
did it used to be the Rave?
I think so.
Okay,
and you can rent private screenings there, so it's like
That's
just your party, and it's like it's expensive. It's like $200, but like I get a little social anxiety about that, like I do at concerts or sporting events. So
you would probably like Cinemark on Bridge Street because they have the 21 and up booth, and it's much more set. Like it's 2 seats together, and then space, and then 2 seats together, and it's elevated, and you can get alcohol. So
is that where y'all went?
No, we went to Coleman. We usually go to Bridge Street, but it was kind of like last minute that we decided
that
to go.
That may be too big of a movie to go watch up there too. That turns into a 6-hour affair by the time you watch the movie and drive up there.
Just looking at tickets, because I looked at tickets for Bridge Street and they were all sold out. Like all day today, tomorrow. There was like fringe seats that are available because with Cinemark and Bridge Street, you reserve your seats. So.
I used to like going on Christmas Day a lot.
Yeah,
that used to be generally some big releases on Christmas Day.
Yeah, it was Star Wars. The new trilogy. I think most of it came out around Christmas. So.
Star Wars, Balboa, Creed, all my fighting movies and all my Star Wars movies typically Christmas Day.
Something's coming out in November. I just saw a trailer for it, and it's something that I was somewhat interested in, but I don't remember.
So, right now, I think Star Wars would be. Of course, we're probably not getting another Star Wars movie for a long time.
I hope not.
That's generally what gets me to
go on Christmas Day.
Gets me to the theater in general.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's just not, unfortunately, a lot of this Disney Star Wars stuff on Disney Plus has been bad. So
there was a time where I would go for Marvel stuff, and I think that probably ended with Black Panther.
You didn't do Avengers? Or are you talking about Black Panther 2?
Black Panther.
So you didn't watch Avengers Endgame?
I haven't even seen them.
You haven't seen them? Oh, man.
No. So fucking, like, over it at that point that, like, I mean, I know that they're probably good, and I know enough. Obviously, it can't really be spoiled, especially if you're a comic book nerd. Yeah. But, like,
it was
at the same time, like,
Infinity War and Endgame were good. I liked Endgame more than Infinity War, and a lot of people disagree with me on that. But I felt like Infinity War was bouncing around a lot.
Also, Civil War chapped my ass too. So
we've heard this rant before. They're ganging up on Tony.
Tony was the coolest one. Ultimately, the hero of the whole goddamn thing.
I mean, yeah.
And he did. I mean, start it.
Yeah. And Iron Man 1 was the...
And it's fucking good.
It's a good movie, yeah.
It's
Iron
good.
Man 1, Iron Man 2, not so much. Iron Man 3, not so much.
I like those, but not Iron Man 1's good.
Iron Man 1 is like up there in my favorite.
And then I do like pretty much, I like all the the third one's terrible. I like the first 2 Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies.
Those are really good, actually.
And I like all the new kids.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Tom Holland?
Yeah, Tom Holland.
Did you not like Amazing Spider-Man movies?
No.
Did you think he was too much of a punk?
Not necessarily. I just didn't. Something was.
I liked his.
I feel like I need MJ, to be completely honest with you.
That's fair.
Yeah, it is what it is.
That's the Amazing Spider-Man story. Yeah. It just doesn't have MJ, but that's the whole thing with him and I'm forgetting her name, Gwen Stacy. Like him failing to save her and her dying is like his defining moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked his. I really wanted a third one. I didn't like his villains so much.
I think that's it. And whether anybody likes to admit it or not, it's the villains that make these things.
A lot of times.
That's the reason why Michael Keaton's Batman movies and Christian Bale's Batman movies are probably the best comic book movies ever made.
Yeah. That's fair. I mean, they're definitely up there.
That's also the reason why I think the what used to be the Netflix cinematic universe was better than
the guy. What is the guy's name?
That played Kingpin.
Yeah, he was the best Kingpin.
He's so fucking good. He was good in all. I mean, I didn't start. We started the new series with him in it, and didn't.
Echo.
Yeah,
I didn't watch it.
We did watch 2 or 3 episodes and quit, but
just not good. Yeah.
The only one of those that really sucked was Iron Fist, though.
I didn't watch
Iron Fist, but I loved Luke Cage.
Yeah.
Luke Cage's villains were great, but Luke Cage's soundtrack was fucking awesome.
Was it Wu-Tang?
It was all a bunch of like Wu-Tang and Erykah Badu and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's non-metal shit that I like a lot. And it was amazing. And I really like that actor. I've watched other things with him in it.
Yeah.
Like
he looks like Luke Cage too. Like legit. Like
yeah, he absolutely does.
Have one other show before the show thing. And I find myself in these weird situations where, you know, I make a comment on a meme or comment about a meme and it just sets people off, man. So there's a meme. I was like Jim Fail Nation or some big meme page posted is like how I look at people who only bench 225 and I bench 315. And it was Joaquin Phoenix in some movie just like looking at the camera with disapproval. And I was like, you guys are bragging about 315? Like, is that what we're doing here? And literally every comment is 315's respectable, bro. Not everybody can hit 315, bro. And I'm like, you guys are fucking weak. I replied to very few comments because it was, and I'm going to read a couple of them real quick. There a handful of people agree with me. They're like, yeah, you shouldn't be bragging about 315. Mostly strong people. Let's see. Instagram's got the entire gym community delusional. Someone asked me, and his name is Strongman Dan. I don't know. I didn't even look at his page, but he was like, what do we get for 455 or 495? And I was like, sometimes you get a gold medal and a couple Instagram likes. I thought that would make it abundantly clear. Like it does not matter how much you bench. Like it just fucking doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Don't be my whole thing. The reason why I made this comment was because I was like, it don't matter how much you bench. Don't look at people with disapproval in the gym. Like it doesn't fucking matter. And then there's just all this like saying about steroids, talking about someone, my favorite comment was, here we go. You get a message from Julius Maddox saying you're bragging about 495. They're like, fuck yeah, that's awesome. Like, I even replied to him. I said his 8-week bench program would have prevented that. That's the big meme. Lots of people talking about steroids. Someone said 315 is a lot for 99.9% of people. And then obviously he had to comment, I can do it for 8. And I know you can do it for more than that. And I was like, and I told him, I was like, 315 is perfectly fine. But all I did was I took the concept of this meme and I raised the weight a little bit and everybody got mad. So, let's see. There's a couple other things that were just recent that I saw. Most gym goers can't bench 315 without or can't do it clean or whatever, which is also not entirely true. 415 should be the gold standard. Just fucking people being stupid. I got a lot of comments. If you can't tell, I'm having to scroll through. There's like 40 replies to my comment. One person said, weird, a guy your size needs attention this bad. And I was like, I'm not asking for attention. Like I've only replied to like 3 comments on here and it's all been like goofing, like obviously. And then this one other person said, and he's kind of like, looks like a bodybuilder. And he was like, not everybody wants to be over 20% body fat, man. And I'm like, have you met John Hack, Dan Grigsby, like these guys, Joe Sullivan, incredibly lean guys who bench press well over 315. But you know, PSA, guys, don't make comments on Instagram memes unless you want to deal with the fallout, because you're gonna get it, because there's a bunch of whiny, low testosterone bitches out there who really don't like you being stronger than them and pointing it out.
Damn.
I have increased my testosterone.
What I think is funny is anytime you've worked hard for anything, people instantly go to gear.
Yep. And they also
instantly.
It's not even that. They'll do anything.
You had 315 before you ever put a needle in your ass.
I think my best was 325.
As a 185 pound, half of the man he used to be, Nathan. He had.
Yep. I had a 315 press.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
They can cry about it all they want. I don't care. I just find it.
I think I had funny. Like 335. Of course, I'm a bigger person, but
right.
Like that was at like 240 though.
Yeah.
Like much leaner than I am now. Like much smaller, probably not much leaner. But like, fuck it. I mean,
it's just funny.
I do think it's funny that people like have these like. That's the reason I made the. That's the reason I made the post a couple of weeks ago about my standard being my standard, and you have to remember that.
Yeah.
The standard you have for people might not be theirs.
Right.
And I find it, and some people may take offense to this, and it's fine, but I kind of get a little aggravated when I miss something that's important to me, and somebody's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. You're still strong."
Yeah. That's
like, but no, I'm strong for a gym bro.
Mm-hmm.
In the context of my sport, I'm not where I want to be. Like, you got to understand that, like I know that my community is small, but like in the context of my community, I'm not that good.
Right.
You know, so like my standard's not met. I'm glad I'm the strongest person, whatever.
Right.
That's fine. But like, that's not
what I
the standard that you
to.
think I should hold myself to is not what I'm holding myself
right.
to, It's probably much higher. And shit, sometimes it may be much lower, but like, in general, when it comes to gym stuff, it's like, it's fine that you think I'm strong. It's cool, but I don't really want smoke blown up my ass.
No,
I don't want to, in a moment where I miss something prescribed, and I do not program for myself or my clients in a way that I should be missing.
Right.
If I fall short of my
plan,
then my standard was not met.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't have a lot of respect for the standard that you set for yourself.
Yeah. That could be
it comes in a way. It could be a whole episode. But it comes from an honest place, and they're like trying to do good by you and compliment you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like it's a little shallow and shows a little emotional unintelligence.
Yeah.
I think
it's trying to be encouraging in a way that is misinformed. I think.
Yeah,
is the best
absolutely.
Way to
Yeah, I mean it's
like you said. The intent
speaking
is
on
good.
something when you hear it from somebody like that, it's speaking on you're speaking from a place of. When you say something like that, you're really speaking from a place of ignorance, because like,
and not saying that in a mean way.
No, but other gym goers are like, yeah, that fucking sucked.
Yeah,
like, surprised you didn't hit that.
Yeah,
do better next time.
Usually, it's like
that's,
someone. I don't want to say that cares more or something, but it's maybe more
knows more about what we're doing.
They might ask questions like, did you hydrate well? Did you eat well? Did you sleep well? Recover well? Obviously knowing you is like, is your drug use up or down? Like, is there some reason why this didn't happen? And we can like figure it out together, kind of like give you some form of being able to reflect on the day prior to see if there's anything you could do better in the future. And
I say all that to say this is like, there's like this weird, like hidden standard on the internet of, oh, you've got 225 for reps. You've arrived.
Yeah, you've arrived.
You got a 315 pound 1 rep max. You've arrived.
You're the best the internet. You're the best presser
ever. Like, unbelievable streak.
I could search hashtag bench press on Instagram, and I would see so many 315 presses.
They also like, I mean, so many, but they also, I would say 75% of the people that can do it don't do it right.
Yeah.
So it's like increasingly rare. Like, so like, no, 315 is not a big deal.
I mean, it's a marker. It's a milestone.
It is a milestone, but like, then you, I mean, you start bragging about it, and then you have to, even if I hit 450 tomorrow, I have to look at it and say, well, did I do this? This is great. Huge PR. Did I do this to my standard? Did I move it well? What could I improve upon?
Yep.
Like stuff like that. It goes so far beyond. Did you do it, or did you didn't, or did you not, or did you didn't?
Did you didn't?
Did you not?
Did not? Did not?
But I don't know. It is what it is. That's the show before the show, guys. We're drinking a simple drink. We're drinking a pineapple and Malibu. It's fucking delicious.
It is. Needs a little more coconut.
The recipe is really simple. It's half pineapple juice and half Malibu.
This is what it is.
And then you fucking drink it.
Stir it up a little bit, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I shook it over ice so it was cold, but, you know, that's it. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can watch us, subscribe to us on YouTube.
Watch us today. Sorry, I wasn't in front of the microphone.
Leave comments, likes, write us 5 stars, dislikes. Fuck, we don't care. Share it with your friends. You can
we don't see the dislikes.
You can follow it follow us at Coleman_Barbell, at Nathan Skedios, and at Sip It and Rip It. And yeah, that's the introduction.
That is the introduction. I was pulling up my plan because I was getting absolutely ready for you to ask me a question.
What question did you expect me to ask? What did you do in the gym this week?
That is the question. That is the question. It was a down week on deadlifts, 535 for 2 sets of 5. Did it pretty easy. Obviously, no questions. Just kind of going through the motions, recovering. Started implementing hack squat over belt squat, and it feels a lot better. Feel really good about it.
We have an exceptionally good hack squat, to be fair.
It is really good. I was actually talking to Clay Byram at work, and he stopped me and was like, asked me about the garage, and he was like asking about tomorrow and stuff. And I was like, yeah, dude, it's a great place. He's been up there a few times doing the day passes. So he was asking me about it. And I was like, yeah, we talked about the hack squat and how much we like that style of hack squat. It's just like the best style of hack squat.
It's the most like a competition squat.
Feels
I
really
hate that
good.
fucking 45-degree wedgie one that we have at Hartzell. That motherfucker.
Yeah, that thing sucks. Yeah.
That motherfucker. Like 2 plates is hard on that fucking machine, dude.
It feels awful. Went the next day, bench day, 395 for a triple. Moved well enough.
Technically a PR.
Technically a PR. I don't know that I've touched 395. I think I did it for a single. During the, I was in prep, but there was a mock meet at AFC. And hit 395. I was just like, I got to do this anyway. There's going to be spotters over there. I'll just go bench over there.
Oh, that's fair.
And so I hopped in there. But it was a good day. Then I backed off 375 for 2 sets of 5. Well, a set of 5 and a set of 4. I felt a little uncomfortable about the last set, so I just racked it early. Everything else went well. My pump day, overhead press didn't go great. Felt like shit that day. It's been a theme for Thursdays to be, I feel like shit days. So
yeah, and that's the reason you made it that your bodybuilding.
Yeah, so that I don't have to put so much into it and kind of can just like get a pump, leave with a pump. Squat day was good. I shout out to Richard and Avery for sending me some stuff to help with my hips and my back. I don't think it panned out for me. We may have, it was Desi and myself trying to do this adjustment. So we don't know if maybe we messed something up or it just didn't work for me. As soon as I was low bar squatting, felt the tightness, 2 plates in my same spot in my lower back. I always feel it. And I was like, fuck, I'm throwing a high bar. And I just said, I'm tired of this. We can train high bar. I know I can train high bar. So I'm just going to squat high bar. And it's not like a high bar. It's not on my neck. It's like on the top of my traps.
That's technically where it's supposed to be. Yep.
So not like trying to give myself a broken neck or anything like that, but feels comfortable, feels good. I feel like I got a lot of power out of the bottom on high bar squat. Hit 455 for 3. Not a PR or anything at all, but it moved well. Nothing to complain about. Just my CNS is still kind of adapting. It's adapting quickly, like I said last week, but it's still going to be, I'd say, probably by the next block, I will be mostly adapted to the high bar stance and the loading, and I should be able to kind of progress it in a better way, but we'll see. I'm really liking the, handful of sets of 3 with short rest times at a low weight after I hit a top set just to get comfortable. Don't know if that's something we're going to continue to do, but I do like it, and I do feel like I can get good stimulus out of it.
Sure.
But we'll talk more on that later. And that was pretty much my week.
Hell yeah. Good week.
What about you?
Had 375 on my bench day. I don't remember if it went for 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
Not great. But I'm starting to feel a little bit more recovered on bench. So
yeah,
that's good. First squat day was good. Was feeling a little So I gave myself a rep range. I did the same thing with you. It was supposed to be 1 to 3. I hit 425 for a really easy, really fast single, and I just didn't. At the time, I didn't feel like doing the 3. Didn't think it would be a good decision.
Mm-hmm.
Watching it back, I probably could have done it for 10.
Right.
That being said, I just got what I needed to get on that day. It wasn't my favorite day. Wednesday's a shoulder day. Working up on shoulder press. I'm doing dumbbell shoulder presses, working up, 80s plus pretty much weekly on that. So I'm getting to see some benefit on that. My elbows still bother me some. So back was a little tough. I started implementing some straps on pull downs and stuff like that to keep it out of my forearm.
Mm-hmm.
Friday was my close grip day. 355 for 3. It was pretty decent. Couple of drop sets went pretty good. And then today I had my big deadlift day. Supposed to be 585 for 1 to 3. Started my second pull, and then something popped in my forearm.
Mm-hmm.
So I cut it short after the 1. Technically, that was a PR, although I'm going to call it an unofficial PR because I've projected up to about 645 for about a year or 2 now.
Yeah.
So, while it was technically the most I've ever pulled, I don't really feel like calling it a PR because
it's a technical PR.
Technically, it is a PR, but I've projected out higher than that for a long time. So, almost 2 years. So,
right.
But it was my heaviest deadlift technically to date, which isn't great, but better's better, so I can't complain. And then I had a pretty speedy 459 on the SSB. Was going to take one more above 500 pounds. I just decided to not press my luck.
Yeah.
So squats are going really well. Deadlift's going well, other than the forearm. Bench is fucky for some reason.
Just trying to manage pain.
Yeah,
and suck
absolutely.
Injury.
Bench is weird. I took a big hit, and I think it's because I programmed a block or 2 on the football bar on the Swiss bar, and I can tell you, I can say that with confidence that whether or not it tracks or whether or not you can make gains on your competition bench for you, for anybody else, you might be able to get stimulus out of it that helps, but it really kind of
just messed you up.
Kind of took some wind out of my sails, to be honest with you, because I was tripling 385 on close grip not too long ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now I'm struggling to hit that for reps on a regular grip. So bench press is kind of oddly trending downward. I will say this, and a lot of people know it. It's hard to bring all 3 up at the same time.
Yep.
So,
and also if you're not eating in a surplus, you could be seeing if you're even at a slight deficit, it could be a
bench press suffers.
Yeah,
with some weight loss. Yeah. But so that could be it too. But all in all, a good week. Accomplished what I need to accomplish. Hopefully this little forearm issue won't be too bad. It is quite a bit more painful than I did it than it was when I initially
last
did
week.
It. So probably deadlifting and straps the rest of the block. So
oof. Gross.
Yeah, I know.
But, gotta do what you gotta do though.
And in the for the sake of self-preservation, probably won't be the worst thing in the world.
No.
Probably gonna go figure 8s too though, because I'm a pretty fast puller, and after I pull my slack, I want to go.
Yeah.
I hate the idea of bending over and being in a bent over position, setting straps for too long.
Yeah, for sure. That would suck. It'd be a pain in the butt.
Don't like that idea.
Do you have a pair of figure 8s?
No.
They're cheap.
Yep. Yeah. But yeah, probably going to strap the rest of the block, like I said, for the sake of self-preservation. But I have 605 in 2 weeks from today. So
605 for 1 to 3?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be cool.
Legitimately, back, hips, legs, had 3 reps a day.
Yeah.
I mean, it moved fast.
Yeah, it did. I saw it. It looked really good.
But, you know, coulda, shoulda, woulda. Doesn't fucking matter.
Right.
Got it for 1. So.
You got PR songs?
PR songs. No, but we can find some.
I will get us started then. And I will start with an old song. And I say old, and it's going to make us feel real old. But it is Disciple by Slayer.
Hell yeah.
Just something about, what's his name? The front man. I'm blanking on his name.
Mariah.
Something about him screaming, God hates us all, just kind of gets me a little riled up, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Go ahead with all yours so I can find some.
For my second one, I'm gonna pretty big, well, not pretty big flip, but you know who Doom Switch is?
I do not.
I'm sorry, Make Them Suffer.
Make Them Suffer, I know who that is, yeah.
Doom Switch by Make Them Suffer. It's pretty cool. Very metalcore-y. I may have put it on the podcast before.
I don't think you have. Maybe you have. Who knows?
I may have, but it's got a female clean vocalist for the chorus, and it's pretty good. She kind of reminds me of Amy Lee, actually. If you're not a big fan of Evanescence, you probably won't.
Definitely not.
Oh man, you weren't part of the goth kid phase listening to Evanescence and Linkin Park.
I skipped the Evanescence.
Oh man, I love Amy Lee. She's a great vocalist. So.
Well, hell
she
yeah.
has a beautiful voice. But yeah, it's like metalcore. It's heavy and with a clean chorus, but with female led.
Hell yeah. I'm having a fucking dig because,
that was me last week.
Yeah.
I was just like scrolling, like, fuck, what can I put on here today? But I had like 5 in the tank. So I was like listening to stuff and I was like, this is good. So I do that a lot. Sometimes I'll have like tons of songs I listen to all the time, and I just start putting them on the list. And then some days I'll be like, fuck, I just didn't put anything.
All right, here's staying in the old stuff. Let's do Wood by Alice in Chains.
Oh, man. Alice in Chains.
Yep. That song's fucking killer, though.
I don't think I've listened to that song by them before.
You've never heard Wood?
I don't think so. If I have,
you should
I don't
listen
remember.
to Wood. Yeah,
I'll
absolutely.
check it out.
And while we're making old school suggestions, we're just going to keep it the same band. We'll do 2 from the same band. I listened to this a couple times in the gym this week. Them Bones by Alice in Chains.
Them Bones is good.
That's a fucking hell of a guitar riff.
Yeah.
That song's heavy as fuck.
It was on Guitar Hero, wasn't it?
Probably.
It was either 1 or 2.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I didn't play it. I was too busy doing the real fucking thing.
Oh, man. I love Guitar Hero as a kid. It was Simon Says, but on a guitar neck. That's what I'm talking about.
The rhythm didn't actually work out. Like, you had to play with the screen and not with the actual rhythm of the song, and that fucked with me as a musician.
It got better.
Because at the time that came out, I've been playing since I was 8, so I was probably 13 or 14 when that came out. So I was very in tune with what's happening musically at that point. And I'm like...
Yeah,
this is fucky. This is not correct.
The more it went on, the better it got.
I
It
can imagine.
just took them a little while to nail the timing of like the buttons popping up and the controllers and stuff.
Yeah, but damn,
oh,
it is what it is. I guess
ready?
That's our PR songs.
So you ready to get into the main topic today?
Yeah, this is Nathan's topic. He's feeding me stuff like I fed him stuff last time. So he's taking this one away.
So the first thing that happened that kind of brought on this whole thing, I was watching a video on the RP Strength YouTube channel, and it was Dr. Helms on, the title of the video was Phenomenal Leg and Arm Workout of a Natty Exercise Scientist, because they just like to put really like clickbaity titles in their stuff, but they were talking in between sets and reps like they always do. And he specifically brought up a study that he was really interested in, that he kind of based his training around. And I'm just going to read this verbatim as far as what I wrote. But it says, analysis on training to failure. They used load as a moderator. They found that the effect of going close to failure went away when talking about loads of 80% or greater. So that means that when we're talking about like going to failure with lighter weights and stuff like that, like heavy volume, like 10, 12, 15, when they went to 80%, those effects that they got to failure just weren't as prevalent. Whereas when you worked with 80%, if you went closer to an RIR of 3, was just as effective as 10 reps to failure.
Sure.
So we're talking specifically hypertrophy here. What they said was 80% is enough to recruit most of the large motor units starting at rep 1. So everything is getting turned on when you go heavy enough, and it's mostly about making the set last long enough. Because it's heavier, you're probably moving the weight slower, so it'll last longer than when you think about it otherwise. So when you think about like the difference in 1 rep, so you're talking about like 1 rep of 60%, let's just talk about a bench press. It's going to fly off your chest. 60% is nothing. You're going to get like 10, 15, 20 reps.
Yeah.
When you're talking about 80%, all of a sudden, well, you got to put a little more oomph in it. If you can make 80% look like 60%, you're not at 80%.
Yeah.
You need to adjust that. But their whole concept of the study was we don't have to train to failure and get the same stimulus because we are getting these motor units driving on the first rep. Whereas when you're like doing a lower weight with higher volume, those first few reps are kind of just like nothing, right? You're just not really getting any stimulus out of them.
Sure.
So that was the whole concept of that study. And then there was a correlation I found when I was listening to the Mark Bell podcast. And this one was Julian Pineau talk tools for overcoming anxiety and PTSD. So you can listen to you can watch this video, listen to it. Same thing with the Mark Bell stuff. That's why I'm citing this. But he specifically said he saw studies with women in CrossFit training doing 90% of their 1 rep max. And EMOMs, they could go for up to 30 minutes. So his idea was that women training focus on the accumulation of wins. Excuse me.
So that's successful reps.
Right. So like the thought process behind it that he was trying to explain was every time that, and he specifically was talking about women, every time you hit this rep, something goes off in your brain. I can do this.
Yeah.
And then you go back a minute later, I can do this.
Yeah. And
it just continues on and on and on. And you just keep getting the rep over and over again because your brain's like, I can just keep doing this because I've done it before. And like I said, he specifically honed in on saying it was women. One of the reasons why I didn't write a lot about his, what he spoke about was because he didn't cite any sources. He didn't have any studies backing it. He basically just said, trust me, bro.
Right. Practical experience does matter.
I mean, it's stuff that he saw. I think I wrote studies, but he actually didn't say anything about studies. But his reasoning, or maybe there was studies, I don't remember. But I remember he specifically said, and I'm sorry, I'm like scrambling around all this. I'm making scrambled eggs with my brain.
That's okay.
But what he specifically said was, in women, this is what he thinks works, right? This is what he has seen. This is what he has tried, and he has seen it to be successful. Do you have anything to comment on?
Well, yeah, I mean, this makes sense because like I've referenced a study that Steffi Cohen talked about where we know that hypertrophy, there's an ideal rep range for hypertrophy, but we know that hypertrophy happens from 1 rep to an infinite number of reps. It's just, there's a rep range where it's more ideal.
Yep.
So that's the reason we kind of get to 8 to 20 reps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean for hypertrophy, but because it tends to be more ideal. But you don't stop building muscle or stop gaining strength just because you're working at 80% plus of your 1 rep max. 1, 2. If you think about a Shako thing, which is practical experience too, nothing really studied. Shako, we've talked about a lot. Used to say that quality reps over about 80% will increase your 1 rep max, even if you're not touching new 1 rep maxes often.
Right.
Like gaining confidence under that. But on a scientific level, it's that recruitment of motor pattern,
Mhm.
you know, making more muscles fire, stuff like that is actually increasing hypertrophy, increasing strength long term
Mhm.
when you're hitting singles at 80%
Right.
plus, basically. So, I mean, there's definitely like plenty of practical. I don't know about studies. I could probably
Right.
look them up and probably find them.
Right.
But there's definitely plenty of practical experience
Mhm.
that says, yeah,
That all this makes sense.
this
Right.
makes 100%. And even if you think about conjugate with a 3 rep max on a variation on your max effort days, or 1 rep max, 2 rep max, or whatever it may be, you know,
The
that
absolute
block.
load
But
that you're working with.
yeah, absolutely, relatively high,
Mhm.
but probably not as high as your 1 rep max competition lift.
Mhm.
It's accumulation under 80% plus most of the time, right? So, I mean, we know from a practical sense that works.
Mhm.
But also there is a physiological and instinctual need to recruit more of those things
Mhm.
because the weight is now dangerous.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's basically you're tapping, you know, for lack of a better, you're having to tap into more muscle because there's a fight or flight response happening
Right.
too. And it's just the absolute load's heavier. So of course it's going to break down something.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know, biggest thing I would say here is like seeing, you know, that we haven't talked about yet, and I don't know if they do, but CNS fatigue
Mhm.
is high, and
Right.
you know, there's a lot of CNS demands for 80% plus.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, this all checks. I mean, I'm with it so far.
So the next thing that I wrote down, this is more of just me going over my thoughts on it. And I basically posed the question, how can I apply this in a practical way? So when you look at these two studies, the progression that I believe in would be to start at about 80%, work between 1 and 3 reps with short rest period. At this point, the number of given wins, at this point, we want more overall sets to achieve a larger number of wins in a given session. And we can increase weight based on RPE or based on a linear progression. It doesn't have to be anything specific. Just as long as you are making progressions, that's the key with pretty much any style of training. Depending on the plan, the potential increase of intensity could also be offset slightly by the decrease in volume and overall sets or reps in a given session. So think about undulating. You know, if you feel like, well, I want to stay at 80% and I just want to like drop the reps or drop the sets, that could be your undulation and still working in the same like pattern in a sense. Something I tend to do when I program is a 6x2, something achievable with a short rest time, and our progression would be a heavier weight and a reduction in reps or sets depending on where we are at the block, and then work towards a top set / drop set the week after, and then a deload. After that, we would follow the same format, but on week 3, give the athlete a weight and let them go to an RP 9 or 10 and see what kind of progress has made and what kind of adaptations have occurred. So breaking this down in maybe a little more easy to understand ways, I'm talking about if you do like 2 blocks of 4 weeks, the first block would be you can either start with your 6x2 or like a set of 5 and then drop sets or whatever have you. First week is kind of like your baseline week. Second week, if you're undulating, then you would drop it, maybe do 6 singles or 4 doubles, increase the weight a little bit. That way you're offsetting the exchange of load and intensity, but you're basically staying on a good path.
Sure.
If you have to undulate, obviously just bring it down a little bit in one respect and not level it out. And then the third week, either, let's say this is block 1, you're just going to give like a top set of, this is what I think you should hit at an RPE, let's say 9, and then a drop set 2 or 3, whatever. Do your deload, then come in week 1. We're going to start the same way. We're going to have our first week, our baseline week, second week, whether we undulate or just kind of like exchange the intensity and volume. And then the third week, we're going to go and we're going to say, you have this weight for either an AMRAP or an RP9 or what have you. Basically, just something to test the limits of what we have done. I have noticed that because I've been programming Desi for basically a year now. Specifically, just point out, obviously, she's a woman. So she does fall under this category that we've been talking about. we've noticed in her bench press specifically, she hit 176 at Birmingham in April. She hit 155 for 8 last week.
Yeah.
We've been doing it, what is it, July now? Like, we're talking about 3 months.
Yeah.
This is an insane amount of progress that we've made in just doing this style of just like hit some reps, quick doubles, don't rest a whole lot, just kind of getting those wins and creating those adaptations. I mean, she's projected for like a 200-pound press right now.
Yeah.
Like, obviously projections and
yeah,
whatever, but
there's still a tool for us to
right.
measure
This
progress.
this is something that, and I think I get onto this later, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it now for anyone just like thinking about it. It's not necessarily that you have to train this way, and it's not that it's the best way to train. It's just that this is something that I have found
it's a way to train.
It is a way to train. Yeah. It works. I've seen it work. There's studies that are showing that this has practical application, both in powerlifting and hypertrophy. I just like it. I think it's a great way to train. Yeah. And specifically, and I don't want to. Well, I'll save this because the next part is going to disclose on this a little bit. But do you have anything to add from?
Well, I'll say that really the most closely I've trained the most close way I've trained this way was with Brandon Allen. Loved 4 to 6 sets of 2 on deadlift specifically, because you got to accumulate a lot of volume with not a lot of intra-set fatigue, if that makes sense. And then it does look and smell like Shako.
Right.
Where, it is submaximal, and it's even submaximal in terms of reps, but you're basically accumulating wins, basically, But also, one thing that reminds me of most recently is I think me and you I think we can confidently say that my squat's probably better than ever coming off an injury. And the only thing I've done is I have worked within weight ranges that allowed me to accumulate victories without hurting myself. And it's allowed me to accumulate a lot of, mentally, it's allowed me to accumulate confidence.
Yeah. That's the same thing when you accumulate wins. It's the same thing. Like, I've done this before. I have the ability to do this. Sure. You just reinforce that by doing it over and over and over again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I don't really, there's not a whole lot of argument with me about this. I will say, and you do, next section, you'll go into this a little bit more. A caveat to this when you program is that women do handle a higher percent of their 1 rep max better than us. And it has mostly to do with absolute load. Yep. That being said, Desi being 5'9", 5'10", 5'11", whatever she is, she's relatively tall for a woman. She does fatigue a little bit. I know from my own experience training Desi, she fatigues a lot more like a man than she does like a woman. And it has everything to do with her height. And although she's slim, she's in a relatively bigger weight class for a woman because she's so tall. So she goes between 165 and 181. Yep. So
trying to max out 181 currently.
But so the only caveat I would add to that is when it comes to the absolute load that Nathan's talking about, 80% is probably good across the board, but you would probably progress it slower with a man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to, like you said, the absolute load is going to increase, and that's where that offsetting can come into play. That's
maybe too why it's better probably to program RPE based and not percentage-based programs.
So you good on that?
I'm good on that.
So the next question I posed is this only applicable to women? Because that's kind of the basis of a little bit of all this. But the short answer is no. While Julian Pinot claims that it works best with women without any scientific basis, like I said, does not mean it can only work in women. I know personally, when Joe programmed me, I have seen it several times with a specific win style of training, referring back to that study that Dr. Helms referred to. If you're training at 80% or better with an RP8, you're likely getting a great stimulus. The reason why it may work better for women is because of that recovery between sets could be better due to overall load, which means lighter weight lifters may also benefit from this style of training. So like we were just touching on, it's all based on recovery between sets is how well you're going to progress this. trying to think of a good way to say this. I kind of lost my thought. Do you have anything on that specifically? Gender?
I mean, gender, it just all goes back to absolute load and that person's ability to recover.
Yeah.
Age also goes into it. Gender, the higher the weight class, like we just referred to Desi, despite her being a slender person, she is in a higher weight class for a woman, so she does recover more like a man. Lighter weightlifters, probably male or female, probably benefit quite a bit from this. And also are going to be able to progress more aggressively.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm right here with you, and you even said that at the bottom of your notes right here. But you just need to, obviously adjust to the athlete, adjust to yourself based on your own ability to recover. Yeah. I'm a big fan of undulating deadlifts. So as Nathan said prior, how he likes to set the block up is you probably need, especially I would say if you're a man and you total probably 1,500 plus, you probably need to consider
an
undulation. Yeah. I'm still able to linearly progress my squats quite a bit. Austin's not, people, stuff like that. You just need to take those considerations in, and that will adjust. That may cause you to adjust the length of the block a little bit more than what Nathan's saying. The deload every 4 weeks thing was a Brandon Allen thing, and I got in the habit of a long time ago. I'm not sure if that's where Nathan has kept it in or not, but that is a style of training I was used to for a long time. But I mean, there's no reason to think if you're a lighter weightlifter, you can't go 5-6 weeks like this too. So
I think
especially undulating.
It also depends on what's happening within the actual training weeks away from deload. Like how intense are the training sessions? Are you pushing really hard? Are you taking it pretty easy? If you're starting at a much easier point and finishing much later at a much heavier point, then you kind of have that ability to run longer, which is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that style of training because you're being able to train at a base level of hypertrophy, like your MEV, and then work up to your MRV towards the end of it. So there's nothing wrong with that. You're staying in, technically you're staying in training an extra week longer. So you're potentially gaining more. It just kind of depends on, again, the athlete recoverability, how they feel, if they enjoy deloading every 4th or every 8th or 12th or however long you run it out. 12 is probably a little aggressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's.
Yeah, 12. I don't think anybody should go 12 without a deload. I mean, maybe in certain off-season bodybuilding instances, but that would be.
It'd be aggressive.
Still rare. Yeah, still pretty rare.
There'd be a lot. You would have to, in that instance, which, in fairness, I never had a deload week with Joe Sullivan. I never had a true deload week except for...
but it depends on how the block's set up.
Right.
We talked about live on the show. I wish we'd got an episode with Joe about if you're managing your fatigue and volume well,
you don't really have to.
You might not be reason to.
Yeah.
Any day could potentially be a deload if it's required.
Right.
I would like to think that I could train that way, but I don't think I can keep myself honest training that way. So I like a hard deload.
I do too.
That doesn't mean that you got to do one, but I do like a hard deload.
Yeah.
I think I have some stuff to add to this next section. So let's go ahead and talk about why and when we should train like this.
All right. So posing the question, when should I train like this? I personally don't see why you couldn't train like this for an extended period of time. As long as you were working with your accessory work mindfully, you do lose some of the hypertrophic gains of consistent sets of 8 to 15 and losing out on some practice because of the total volume. You do have the potential to gain a different sort of sport-specific work capacity in the sense of treating everything as a competition lift. So when you're thinking about 2s and 3s and singles, that is the sport is singles. Yeah. So when you really dial it into that and you're like, if you're maybe reset, like I know you do a lot of deadlift reset, like every rep, and then we're talking reset coming away from the bar, walking back to it, or just at very minimum standing up and letting go of the bar. We're practicing that one rep within each set. I do think you could train like this year round, with the exception of peaking for competition. I do believe that adding in varying rep ranges and sets so many blocks in is wise, but I wouldn't shy away of training like this in multiple blocks at a time, depending on the length of your training blocks.
Yeah, and I'll just this is something I was interested in discussing quite a bit. Something I feel like I've noticed pros do. I'm going to reference John Hack, but y'all can fact check me on this. I don't really care because I may be wrong. I've seen more and more pros that, especially if they compete 2 or 3 times a year, keep heavy singles to triples in year round and more aggressive volume on drop sets.
Yeah, like 6 to 8 reps.
6 to 8 reps. Yeah, like you're hitting 1 to 3 and then you're peeling 200 pounds off the bar for 6 to 8 reps. So I would say that's definitely a way to manage that as well. And then I personally, this 4 sets of 2 to 6 sets of 2 thing, training kind of at the percentages Nathan was talking about, that's perfectly, and really Nathan's doing this right now, not quite the same reps, but that's really something I utilize on my undulated weeks already. Like personally, like on my down deadlift weeks, I have 5 sets of 1, probably up to about 85%. Right now they're quite a bit lower. But I've been more aggressive with yours, like load wise, you know what I mean? We could very easily move to, a more sport specific practice, which would be like the 6 sets of 2, especially with a full reset.
And that may happen later on.
Yeah, there's lots of ways to manage the volume. I guess one of the benefits about this though is to get a pretty good deal of volume in and still manage, like I said with Brandon, still manage intra-set fatigue and still accumulate those wins. So for like hypertrophy sake, and everybody's MEV and MRV are different, so I'm not going to try not to talk out of my ass too much. But for bench press, I really find like 30 to 40 reps a session. Well, especially we're talking about the off season,
right? Hypertrophy.
Yeah, we're talking about hypertrophy based. That could very easily be done in 10 sets of 3 with 2 minutes rest. Every minute on the minute, something like that. That's definitely something that's feasible. As a big man, it's easier for me to get through an every minute on the minute than it is 3 sets of 10.
Yeah.
Total volume's the same. And I'll be honest with you, and everybody's thinking, oh my God, every minute on the minute, that's 10 minutes of bench press. Yeah, but it's 10 minutes of bench press when I do 3 sets of 10.
Right.
Because now you're a little bit more fatigued and you're resting 2 or 3 minutes between sets. Yeah, it takes you 30 seconds to do the set, but like...
But you're having to wait 2-3 minutes to recover. It's
really, even in terms of hypertrophy, there's really not a whole lot to argue about because you can still accumulate the same number of reps across the board. This is not unlike a speed day on conjugate either. I keep, there was times when I was messing around with conjugate, I might have 10 sets of 2 on a squat. Now it's not an 80% plus, but like this is not new in terms of volume management. You know what I mean? Like there's definitely different ways to do this. And it could just be smart too, like I said, because it is more sport specific because you're having to reset, practice your setup and stuff like that. And it probably is going to keep you honest in terms of rest time, stuff like that.
You're not going to have time to sit there and rest for 2 to 3 minutes if you got 10 sets of 3.
I'll be honest with you, beyond a certain strength level, sets of 10 is fucking hard.
Yeah.
Sets of, you're a better squatter than I am. Sets of 10 is hard for you. They're hard for me. Take somebody like Austin, who's an extremely good squatter. 50% is still, for him, still 300, anywhere from 350 to 400 pounds. You know what I mean? It's like,
that's a lot.
That's a lot of fucking weight, right? Like, so yeah, he can squat 700 pounds, but sets of 10 still fucking suck.
Yeah.
Like, so I mean, I look at it as a way to manage fatigue and accumulate wins easier, and probably to keep you as a little bit more honest about rest times in between. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. And also, depending on, and this may be in closing, I don't remember, but a big thing for me is like all of this should be implemented in the place of a lifter who responds well to it. If a lifter responds really well to just like 2 sets of 10 or 3 sets of 10 or some high volume, 2 sets of 12, whatever it may be, if they respond well to that, let them do it. Keep them on it. If they enjoy it, they're going to respond better.
They probably don't enjoy it.
Well, some people are insane.
Some people are insane.
But like my thing is, it's really about the mentality of the lifter that you're programming for.
Yeah, and you are getting higher quality reps and stuff like that. And like I said, if hypertrophy is still the same, especially with a shorter rest time,
if they're going to be
6 of one, half dozen of the other, at that point. We still want to build work capacity, but you're going to get work capacity from a shorter rest period.
Yep.
I'd like to know Zach's opinion on this because we talked, he really, the only thing we really disagreed on when he sent me his notes from a few weeks ago was he really keeps people barbell wise in the 1 to 5 rep range. Mm-hmm. So I would like to know, is this something he utilizes? Is this closer to the way he's programming his clients? I will say find the most benefit this style programming on deadlift because the load's a lot fucking worse for most of us.
Yeah.
It's easier to recover from. And 2 sets of 6 on deadlift is much tougher than 6 sets of 2.
Definitely.
I don't think anybody's going to argue with that, especially if you're doing full resets and trying to, really trying to kind of hammer some volume. And the good thing about deadlifts is I program a lot less overall volume on deadlifts than I do anything else anyway. Mm-hmm. Part of it's because we get so much of the same stimulus from a squat, and we get so much of the same stimulus from our accessory works that we do for squat and deadlift that there's, I'm not in the mindset that deadlift's always the highest risk thing you can do. Right. I think that's kind of individual, but load management's a difficult thing to learn as a coach for deadlifts. And I do think that this style of training specifically for the deadlift is probably pretty beneficial. Yeah. That being said, referencing Pino, is that his name?
Pinot, I believe.
Julian Pinot's idea about CrossFitters, I'm guessing that was probably in a clean or a snatch.
I think it was a front squat.
Okay.
I think so.
That's fair. So I was wrong about that, but and as opposed to a snatch or a clean, it's a lot similar to deadlift. Is that's a whole lot of pulling and it's a whole lot of total body fatigue. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now that makes a whole lot more sense than trying to hit 10 snatches back to back.
Right.
As a set. Mm-hmm. First of all, that doesn't really apply to Olympic weightlifting.
Yeah.
That's not a work capacity you need in a dynamic exercise. Yep. Sorry to CrossFitters, but it's not like to develop skill in those. It's really not fucking ideal because you're rushing your setup.
Yeah.
There's so many things that can go wrong.
And it's a very technical sport.
It's a very, very technical sport. This type of training probably makes a lot more sense there. Mm-hmm. But even as, talking about it as it applies to powerlifting, if you start bad, you end bad.
Yep.
Yeah, there's instances you can muscle your way through it and, fight your way through it.
But you don't really want to practice that.
But you don't want to practice that, yeah. So if you're getting consistent practice with your setup and your walkout and the squat, if you're getting consistent practice with your setup and unrack on your bench and stuff like that, those are things that are directly applicable to a 1-rep max sport. So it stands to reason that there's plenty of reason to do this a pretty good portion of the year. I wouldn't say all year, but there's a great argument for it.
I would say, I think with most of us, specifically seasoned powerlifters, intermediate or better, this makes more sense. With a newer person, I think it does make a lot of sense to put them through like 8s and 12s and stuff, because you're just going through motions and you're pushing them to like develop the skill.
Yeah.
And you don't really need them to refine the skill yet. They just need to learn it. They just need to practice it.
They're refining it by doing it.
I mean in the sense of like really honing in on.
They don't have the same body awareness that we do. Yeah. They don't have like anybody that's ever worked with a client. It doesn't pay as a trainer to be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
It pays to be able to cue somebody in a way they understand it. Mm-hmm. Like, especially if they're general fitness clients, they don't give a fuck what their lat is.
Yep.
Like, don't cue a muscle group.
Don't tell me about my rhomboids.
Physically show them what you need done.
Right.
It needs to be a cue they relate to. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And you're going to have exceptions to that. You're going to have clients that do care and do want to know that kind of stuff. But by and large, if you want them to do correctly with a good technique, most people, even take like somebody like Austin don't care muscularly what happened. He doesn't care how much I know about anatomy. He needs to know if it was good or if it was bad, how to cue himself out of it.
Yep.
That's it. Like, so, I think it does give you plenty of opportunity to practice. I like this method of training. I'm not so sure that I wouldn't. I really feel like I'm doing it some now.
Oh yeah,
to be honest with you,
I've definitely noticed it in my programming specifically, and there were some things, and me and you have had discourse on the squat specifically on instead of doing longer like short. less sets and more reps, we were like, let's try this shortened rest and do like
Practice.
3 sets of 3.
Yep.
And it was primarily for my CNS to adapt to high bar squatting.
Sure.
But this makes a lot of sense in other aspects too. And like I said, I do it for Desi. It works really well for her. Her squat has gotten significantly better since we started doing this doubles and triples.
You have this fucking anxiety too about five reps or more on the barbell.
Yeah.
Less so for me on bench. I feel like I can bench just for fucking days, to be honest with you. And you probably feel the same way. But like on squat,
when it gets heavy.
On squat and deadlift though, like the number attached to the sets scares me more most of the time than the number that I'm doing.
Right. The actual
you know
load,
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like knowing that I need to squat, 3 plates plus for multiple sets of 10 is incredibly anxiety inducing, especially for a guy that's been hurt a lot squatting. So, I think it's a great way to train. Like I said, I think there's a time and a place for it. I wouldn't say that I would do it year round, but just from an applicable, from the way I'm applying it already, I tend to do this more in down weeks. And probably will continue to do it more in down weeks. And then coupled by the fact that I'm seeing more and more, like I said, more and more people that are at the top of our sport stay in smaller rep ranges for longer parts of the year. Even if their drop sets are aggressive, like we said, 6 reps or more.
Yeah.
I just do find it applicable. And again, too, this isn't necessarily new in that I feel like you see it in conjugate and on speed work days. Juggernaut programmed a lot like this.
Yeah.
There was days, even my fat ass had 6-7 sets of squats.
Yeah.
And it might not be a whole lot of
Reps
intraset volume, but just set after set after set after set. Shaco's definitely that way with set after set after set after set. So I don't think it's not new, but it is, potentially a new way for us to look at things.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of ways to manage volume, and this is a good one, to be completely honest with you. So I don't have a whole lot to add or even to argue about. Like we say, most of the time, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and right for you and right for somebody else might not be the same thing. But this is something I would definitely say, if you're on the stronger end of things, you should probably consider
at least sprinkling it into your training.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I'll just go ahead with my closing. As with everything when it comes to training, everyone is different. And just because one person is successful in one training methodology doesn't always mean that you will be. It's good to try new things and see how you personally respond to different training styles and methodologies. As a coach, I've specifically seen how well this specific training style works in the context it has been presented. And I do believe that using this either as a basis or sprinkled in as a load variable is beneficial. It'll help you achieve a sport-specific work capacity, sharpen your one rep skill, and you'll build strength along the way. So,
yeah, I don't think there's nothing to argue about whatsoever. I have found some of my best gains have been just when I've made things manageable for myself. It changes my attitude about it. It changes how I perceive the work I have to do that day. I mean, it changes a lot for me.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that you could still maybe you don't do 6 sets of 2, maybe you do 4 sets of 2, and then I'm going to do a hard drop and I'm going to squat it until I get a pump.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still an option. Like you can still have things after this.
Oh yeah.
Probably don't need to do it as many sets as we discussed, but like, if you can do that, and there's just like so many ways you can manage this load. In the off season, I would definitely say undulated weeks on deadlift, the 6 sets of 2 is probably fine. And then maybe alternating it with, 3 sets of 2 and a single drop set or something, or something like that. And it also depends on another thing you need to consider. It does depend on your MEV and MRV, which we've made reference to the Juggernaut video of how to find that quite a bit. And they do it in a generic way, and it's just based on sets. You do have to consider, though, when you're doing less reps per set, that your MRV in terms of sets does kind of go up,
right?
Because you're less taxed by the actual set itself. So, so it's really important to kind of hone in on that athlete specific thing. I'll be honest with you. What I find to work right now for Nathan and for Austin is we have top set and 1 to 2 drop sets on lower body and a top set and up to 3, depending on where we're at in the block for an upper body.
Yep.
I feel like it applies best to undulation, to be honest with you. But again, especially if you're going to use it like strict rest timer, you can go a long way with EMOMs.
Yep.
You could do your whole block that way.
Yep. And it doesn't have to be 10 minutes.
You can drop to every 2 minutes on the minute. You know, and it doesn't have to, like he says, it doesn't have to be every block. But accumulating, you know, back to, and I reference Shaco a lot, and I don't think it's the best style of programming, but I really do identify with accumulated quality reps over 80%. And this is a good way to get that done. Low stress, low fatigue, and accumulate those mental wins.
Yep.
When you get to the level that me and Nathan are, more so Nathan's, but when you get to the level where you're, you know, 1,500 plus as a man, volume becomes much, much harder to maintain, facilitate, recover from, and you have to dial things in quite a bit. So this is just another way to kind of manage those things, I suppose, you know. So
I think that's the most useful way to do it is fatigue management, and especially when you have people who are tired all the time. This is very
be a great way if you night shift people.
Yeah,
this is a great way to train. Yeah, absolutely. You could, I would argue, you can even do it through your last strength block and into your peak if you're willing to adjust rest times accordingly. You know what I mean? But I mean, also at the strength level that we're at, on a bad day, we could miss as little as 85% for a single. On a good day, maybe we can hit 100. But like, it's very common at our strength level to miss 90%.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be if your program is smart, but like, I mean, it's 100% possible. If you haven't hydrated well, haven't slept well, stuff like that, you know, it's a possibility you could miss 90% of your 1 rep max. Like, that's becoming infinitely more stressful as you age and get good in the sport than it was when you were pressing 250. You know what I mean? Like, so just a lot to consider, but
or 315. I just had to throw that out there. I did want to mention one thing before we wrap up here, and this is like completely, pretty much totally wrong side of the ball field here, but I was talking to Joe Sullivan a little bit. He shared a picture of somebody who was taking both iridescence and nectar in the same day. I did want to comment on this because I talked to him, and he said he's used it before. He doesn't recommend using it a lot because the fatigue that he experiences after taking both of them is extremely high. So for those of us that are using it, you can combine both of them. He said it makes you feel a little more peppy, a little more up. And the reason I asked him about the combo is because iridescence already has carnitine choline in it, which is the base of nectar. He said, you know, it does make you feel a little better, but expect a huge crash afterwards. It will make you feel like shit the next day. So don't do this combo if you have something heavy going on the next day. I found that with iridescence by itself. It was after that deadlift day. I pushed really hard. We talked about it before. Bench didn't feel super great. I still got it, but it didn't feel super great because I was tired, probably from the iridescence. I asked him again. I was like, so if I take this on meet day before every flight or event, I was like, am I going to feel like a complete trash pile the next day? He said, most definitely. So be aware of this. I know we've got listeners and you have clients who take it. Spread awareness. Don't use it all the time. Don't abuse it. If you take iridescence and nectar at the same time, plan it on a day that you will be resting or at least not lifting the following day. And if you're going to take iridescence at your event multiple times, be prepared for the fallout the next day because you will be on the couch.
It's fine because you're probably taking a week off anyway.
But just be prepared to be laid out for a day.
Well, it brings me to something else. We have a little bit more of a CrossFit base listening now. As I've started to train a CrossFitter and stuff like that, and we are toying around with the idea of using nectar or iridescence for these things. Better Through Biology posted a graphic for both of them and how they compared to one another, and they are very similar results. But they did say that nectar may be the more beneficial of the two
for endurance athletes.
So While not all of CrossFit is endurance based, the majority of what you're going to do, you're going to have some staying power. So if you're a CrossFitter and you're listening to the show, there's no drug test for it. It is an injectable vitamin. So keep that in mind. The better of the two products for you may be Nectar.
Yeah.
Unless you're just going into an event that is, like strictly like if you're going to a deadlift party and you're going to deadlift ladder, clean and jerk ladder, something like that. And you're not competing the whole weekend, you might have a preference toward iridescence, but as CrossFitters probably competing multiple days in a weekend, multiple events a day, Nectar's probably the better choice.
Yeah. You don't want to crash really hard on the start of your next day.
Yeah.
That would be detrimental.
CrossFit events are one on the second day.
Yeah.
I mean, so just keep that in mind. If it's a single day event, fucking go ham. But, multiple days like my athlete has coming up where he has multiple events, back-to-back days, iridescence probably isn't the play.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Dad jokes. You got dad jokes?
Hell no.
I've got a couple saved. I can start us off as soon as I get them pulled up. That baby is not happy about whatever is going on. I don't know if she's bled through at all, but she is not happy. I got my getting my kite stuck in the tree isn't the worst thing that happened to me today, but it's definitely up there.
Good one. What weighs more, a gallon of water or a gallon of butane?
I've heard this one before.
A gallon of water, because butane is a lighter fluid.
That's right. Yeah. Airport police say that the number of people smuggling helium balloons in their luggage is under control, but cases continue to rise.
Shit.
You know why chickens are always so mean to each other?
Why?
They use foul language. I'm not saying I'm attractive, but when I take my clothes off in the bathroom, I turn the shower on.
All right.
I think you've said that one before, actually.
I don't remember. The Beach Boys walk into a bar. Round. Get around. I'll get around. But
my wife always buys the cheap toilet paper. It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Fucking cardboard scraping your
inside. I'm
of
strictly
your butt
Angel
cheek.
Soft. I don't know if
she
big
prefers quilted Northern.
Ugh.
It's fine. It's okay. I'm not real
all
picky.
The real bougie toilet paper, I feel like the tensile strength's not high enough, like it rips too easy.
It depends on what you get. If you get like the ultra plush like she likes, it is very like not tough, but the regular kind is actually pretty durable.
I don't want a finger going through it. I've used Angel Soft for a long time because that shit's durable. So
that is fair.
It is what it is. Well, I think that's dad jokes.
I got one more because it's really good. Okay. This morning on the way to work, I wasn't really paying attention and I drove into the back of a car at some traffic lights. Driver got out and it turned out he was a dwarf. And he walked up to my car and he said, "I'm not happy." I said, "Well, which one are you then?"
I knew where that one was going.
As soon as I said, "I'm not happy," you're like,
"Yeah,
got
there
that.
It is. Got him."
I like that one though.
That was not politically correct. What's politically correct on this show?
We try to be like somewhere when it comes to jokes, a joke's a joke.
We try to be mindful.
We try to be mindful for the most part. I think we're fairly fair.
We're fairly fair. That's the show, guys. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Watch us and subscribe to us. Watch us and subscribe to us on YouTube. Like, comment, all that good stuff. Rate us 5 stars on Spotify. Leave comments. Send us DMs. Tell us we're great. Tell us we suck. Any type of feedback's good at this point. And
let us know what you thought. If this one was
helpful.
I don't know. I wouldn't say it was on par because I was very stumbly through it. But was it did you find similar value in it as the last
Yeah.
one?
I mean, we're trying to do better about providing some value and not just
sitting here bullshitting for an hour.
The last show was really successful, so maybe this one will be too. That's the hope. So.
If not, I'll just let you write it all. It'll be fine. I've got nothing.
I don't know that it's me writing it that made it successful.
Well, you probably purveyed it a little better.
I mean, we can just put our minds together on it.
Could try.
Yeah, because the past 2 episodes, I prepared one, he prepared one, so.
And this is not a contest.
It's not a contest, and there wasn't much discourse between the two of us about either thing. We both read the things.
And just kind of added to it.
But yeah, we're probably moving more in this direction on days that we don't have
a guest.
Yeah.
Now, if we have a busy week, maybe probably do a bullshit episode and just kind of hang out. But
yeah, but
we'll try and get a little more formatted.
You can follow us at Nathan Scadios, at Coleman_Barbell, at Sip It and Rip It. And I don't know. Y'all have a good weekend. Bye, y'all.